if there is an error in a custom function, let me show you what that will do. So let's go into this test function, and then let's just get rid of, let's just make a typo, right?
Yeah.
So that we can make this error out.
Okay.
And then let's manually launch this instance again.
Okay.
As you can see here, custom functions will also show the error message here. As you can see, undefined local variable, saying that this is undefined because there's a typo. And then also in the steps, instead of the API call, where the API call would error out, if you look at the steps, it'll also show that in the response of the function. Okay. So those are the two places where you can see where it errored out. This is useful that you can see it in the steps, especially for custom functions, because say, for example, you have a giant for loop that has a lot of functions, right? Yeah. It's kind of hard to know exactly where this errored out because it would have ran through a lot of things. So within the for each, you'll also be able to go to the specific function and see exactly which function within the for each it errored out on as well. So previously launched workflow. I'm not sure if that makes sense. So you know how we just launched the workflow for, I think it was Tim? What we can do is if you manually launch the workflow for Tim, and this runs through and you know it runs through all the processes, what you can do is you can press this person with the check mark here, and what this does is it retains and caches the information of the previously ran workflow instance. Okay. So as you can see, it shows the information of the previously ran information, first name, last name. And what you can do is you can test the workflow individually, or you can test the function individually without needing to run the whole workflow. So in here, I remember, just to go back, this is just getting the first name and last name, and then passed by getting the full name. So you can come here and then test that out. You can press test, and it'll give you the output of what the function will be doing. This is great because then now you can troubleshoot and test different scenarios of these two, of the function, right? Say, for example, we have a person with a hashtag and like a really long name. We can add that onto the first name, and then we can still press test, and then it'll give us exactly what the function will do with your testing. So this is really good for testing scenarios, like for specific functions. If you have a function that's like very complex, for example, and there's a lot of different edge cases, it would be good to come here and test it out here. So for example, this is the date format that we're doing right now. Say, for example, we do like, say, for example, the date format came over raw, right? Like we do something like this shouldn't work. I wonder if it does. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. So it says invalid date, right? Because there's no such thing as this date. So you can test different kind of scenarios where like maybe a date came in where it's in a very different format than what it should be. You can also test those different date formats to make sure all of those formats will work. So, making sure this format will work for the date format, making sure, maybe they're in Europe and they do like date, month, year, or something like that. Making sure it still formats the same, same formatted date, and so forth. You're able to come here and just try out the function with your different test cases.
Okay.
Cool. So any questions about that functionality?
I guess the main use is perhaps if you are trying to find in which step was the problem, perhaps, yes?
Correct. So say that the issue was the workflow ran and it failed here, then what you can do is you can come here and see what it tried to run and then fix it, fix the issue on here and also within the function itself. And then you can run it and test it to make sure your fix has worked before you run the workflow instance again.
Okay, perfect, got it.
Yeah. All right. So that should be good. Within the workflow builder and the workflow instances, that's going to be the best way to kind of troubleshoot those kind of errors. Looking at the instance, looking where it failed, looking at the error message, knowing which step that it failed on, coming to the step that it failed, looking at the code, testing out the code here is going to be your main kind of routine of fixing those kind of errors within the workflow.